Welcome to episode 249 of thenecronama.com.
You know what's really scary? Book bans. Long a tool of authoritarians, book bans are a direct threat to our freedom to read. That's why Library Foundation SD, Brooklyn Public Library, and other partners across the country have launched Books Unbanned to fight this evil. This campaign makes frequently banned or challenged books available through a digital catalog to young people across the U.S., including states with increasing book bans. Like your local library, it's completely free to sign up. Want to learn more, including how you can help increase access to the books we love? Visit libraryfoundationsd.org.
Fright Rags has been bringing you the best in horror apparel and accessories since 2003, offering a wide range of products for your favorite creature features, slasher flicks, and cult classics. Officially licensed collections include titles like John Carpenter's The Thing, The Evil Dead, Creepshow, Jaws, the Halloween franchise, and so many more. Head on over to fright-rags.com. Make sure to sign up for their SMS and email newsletter to never miss a drop. Listeners get 10% off when they use the code NECRO10, all caps, at checkout. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now, and I am absolutely amazed that Wendy's was able to get the Where's the Stuff lady.
And I'm Don Guillory, author, historian, educator, co-host of the podcast that you're listening to. And I got to say, I still love this movie and all its campiness, all its ridiculousness, even despite that they happen to violate the 5-second rule for fucking many times and for so long. They just took some liberties with the 5-second rule here, because how long was that shit in the ground?
Good Lord. All right, joining us today for the 7th time, I believe, Brian Haas is here. Brian, welcome back to the show.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me back. I'm glad that I could be here to throw a shovel of dirt on the corpse of the Necronomicon on the way out the door. Always a pleasure to be here. So
you were our very first guest, and then you were almost our second guest as well. I think there was like one other person in between when you did Terminator and then did Creepshow.
Yeah,
but so I believe you were 2 out of our first 3 guests, and
yes.
So now you're here for the end as well. It's exciting stuff. But I just want to run through what you've done. You've done Terminator and T2.
Yeah.
You did Creepshow.
Yeah.
Spontaneous, which became one of my favorite movies that this podcast gave me. Yep. Holy shit. I force people to watch this movie because I adore it so much.
Yeah, I won't stop until everybody's watched it. So
The Bride of Frankenstein. Obviously, knowing you as long as I have, I know that's very influential in your life.
Oh, yeah.
And then we did Glorious, the glory hole bathroom movie. Utterly fantastic. And Piggy. And Piggy also rocked my fucking world. And I just want to say, most people who have come on this show more than once have at least one movie that I didn't like because, number 1, I'm picky. Number 2, I'm a prick. And number 3, I hate slow burns. So I'm going to automatically destroy like 60% of what people throw at me right there.
Right.
But I loved every single movie that you've picked. And holy shit. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Additionally, really fast, I just want to throw in, you are one of the top reasons that this podcast happened. When we were starting, I came to you because you had so much experience, and I picked your brain, and you helped me a shitload, and I just want to thank you publicly for doing so.
Oh, yeah, not a problem whatsoever. I think about that a lot, actually, because, like, we just sort of like met each other at a convention or something. I don't even really remember where we met each other. I think it was the convention. Yeah, but
or like, clusterfuck or whatever it was at that point.
Whatever it was, yeah. And we sort of talked and, joked around a little bit. And I figured you were probably just, another person that you just randomly meet at a con and probably will not have a, huge impact on your life or anything like that. And then you started reaching out when you were trying to do this. I think you probably would have quit, actually, as I sort of remember, because you were getting really frustrated with a lot of stuff. And I was like, oh, well, you can do this or you can do that or, these things, or this is who I use for my host or whatever. And through those conversations, we did become like much better friends. And now I can't even imagine like what my life would be like if I hadn't have met you all those years ago.
Thank you.
I certainly would have never stolen Don's doctorate at FanFusion. I am a former doctorate of, is it philosophy? I've been telling everybody history. Well,
the degree's in history.
All right. So I'm sticking with history because people are going to say, Doctor of Philosophy, what the fuck are you, hippie? So I'm a one-time doctor of history. So and even then I say that they stole the belt from me because I took that thing fair and square. I can't help it that you were so shocked by an answer that was given during Horror Against Humanity that I could, just roll you up in a small package and take what was yours.
Yeah, but you didn't check the Arizona laws within the regulations regarding transfer of titles. The person that you used as a referee was not registered in the state of Arizona and was not an official one. Yeah. So I've never lost it.
This sounds like some Ric Flair bullshit to me.
I mean, honestly, the lawyers. So apparently, I can proclaim myself as still a doctor in Arizona. So that's cool because I think I'm the only doctor in Arizona as far as I know. And you better keep your eyes open in Kentucky in a couple of weeks because
Kentucky already happened. We were already there. Okay, we're recording ahead still.
Yeah, I'm sorry, giving everybody a peek behind the curtain there. I like to do that every once in a while where I'm like, oh, and by the way, it's also Super Bowl Sunday. So when you hear this like 4 weeks from now and you're like hearing us talk about the Super Bowl commercials, you understand why. So
little tangent. I always loved when we would make some current events comment and then I'd have to specify when we were recording because I was like, this isn't coming out for 2 months. Nobody's going to remember this.
Exactly.
But yeah, so Don had his title belt. I remember it clearly. You kicked him in the knee and then small packaged him.
Yep.
Took the title. Yeah. So I agree. I think it's a one-time win. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely am going to proclaim myself as a doctor of history in Arizona.
Well, you can proclaim it on Wikipedia because the real record books will not count it.
Yeah, that's all right. The fake internet wrestling community for doctorate title belts knows the truth, Don Guillory.
Oh man.
Yeah. I've already run this episode. So
no, it's all good. You're the one who taught me not to go back and edit. So anyway,
I did. So I was actually telling somebody about that recently because he's like, I fucked up when I was talking about this person instead of that person. He's like, you got to cut that out. I'm like, nah, man, I'm going to leave it in. That way they know you're a real person. And he was a little like flustered. And then he's like, I guess you're right. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times. So let's talk about your stuff. Tell our listeners a bit about yourself in case this is their first episode and they have 6 more to listen to.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I am a podcaster. I have a movie podcast for the last 7 years with our friend Shelley, who has been on Necronomicon.com more than one occasion, I believe. And
3 or 4, yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And so I have been a film critic for 30 years. I figured it out that last year was 30 years. So it's actually 31 years now at this point. And I am a screenwriter. I am a filmmaker. I wear lots of different hats. James has seen me wear some different hats.
I have, yeah.
So
Cool. All right. Let me ask you the most important question of the day. Why did you pick the stuff?
Well, I'm glad that you asked, James.
Somebody just walked into my fucking office. Hold on a second, guys.
Okay.
What do you want? I need to tell the truth to the people. Give me my fucking. I'm here to talk to you right now. I don't know what you did, who got to you, but I want to be honest. This is just another liberal, anti-whipped cream, pro-ice cream bullshit. I don't, who got to you, goddammit? Who got to you? Was it Butters? Haagen-Dazs? Was it Blue Bunny? It was that Blue Bunny bastard, wasn't it? Was it Ben? Was it Jerry? Answer me! Answer me, motherfucker! I know. It was that fucking heifer over at Bluebell, wasn't it? You sons of bitches will not get past. Get your fucking hands off me!
He's finally snapped.
Apparently Alex Jones is like just dropping in on random podcasts. I don't know what
he doesn't have anything else to do now. So
I know. Anyway,
Be careful, they'll sell your assets because he touched them. So,
well, that wasn't the only thing he touched when he came in here. Anyway,
wow. Now there's stuff everywhere.
Yes, exactly. Oh
right.
My God.
So why did you pick this movie, Brian?
So
that was a gentle, I touched his teeth with a baseball reference, and this son of a bitch goes in a very dark.
So the reason that I picked the stuff, I have really varied taste. I do like some highbrow stuff, and I've talked about some highbrow stuff on your podcast before. But I like something of the people, and so like what I always loved about Larry Cohen as a filmmaker, as a writer, is he was so far ahead of the curve that like it took people 15 years to like catch up to even understand like what he was talking about, and like he touches on some stuff in lots of different movies. This movie in particular, there's just like all sorts of stuff that we'll talk about, but like Larry Cohen was always very questioning of people's motives and of like government interaction. He was very very wary of the government. The government was very often one of the villains in his movies, as is the case in this one. The government plays a pretty significant role in the stuff. And like he had this just sort of healthy sense of like questioning just about everything. And then not only would he do those things, but he would do it in an incredibly entertaining, fast-paced, funny, package like the stuff. Many of his movies are like this, where it's like crazy characters, a fantastical setup, and like these characters that probably would never sort of interact in any other sort of manner, like realistically. Like, how is an industrial saboteur, a like 10-year-old kid, and a racist archetype of like a an old school marketing ploy, are going to get together to fight against the government and corporations to make sure that everybody's health is better. Like, if you like pitch the idea of this movie, it's preposterous, and yet somehow like Larry Cohen puts it together in this like incredibly complex yet somehow like malleable package that is like super entertaining. Like, he very rarely ever went over 90 minutes in any of his movies, and had just sort of like those throwback exploitation feels that like Corman or William Castle or some of the old like real showmen had. So he sort of like played in both worlds and was really just like, I think Larry was a little bit crazy and like, but he was willing to take chances on like stuff that he thought wasn't being sort of presented. And I mean, he made a huge career out of it. I mean, it made him a lot of money and made him very popular. And he was a producer for many, many years. And, you know, he's beloved right there with the Cormans of the world, you know, so.
Absolutely.
And so I really wanted to sort of pay homage to the sort of exploitation, lower brow films as well, because like there's still tons of stuff that you can take out of those movies that sometimes do it in sort of a very satirical or like in the manner of a parody or something like that, but can hit just as hard as like other movies because like you can be a little more on the nose and a little more grotesque and, you know, just really hit somebody with like a 2x4, you know, in the face with this movie, you know, where it's just like, I'm not going to be subtle at all. I'm just going to like smash you in the face with a 2x4. And then we're both going to laugh about it when it's over. So, and yeah, I had nothing. Yeah, I had nothing but respect for Larry Cohen. Like he just had a million great stories. There's a movie called Cohen's World, I think. I'd have to look that up. But there was a movie just about like all of the movies that he made over the course of his career as a director, a producer, and a writer. Because he also, you know, not only did he do sort of these crazy movies like The Stuff and It's Alive and Maniac Cop and stuff like that, but he also wrote like some pretty mainstream stuff. Like he was the writer for Phone Booth, that Colin Farrell, Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah. Okay. He wrote a bunch of like, sort of like more, I mean, sometimes he used that as a way to finance some of his stuff, but like, yeah, I mean, he had his feet in both worlds where he would do stuff like go write an episode of Columbo and then go make Cue the Winged Serpent, you know, like in the same year or something like that. So yeah, I had nothing but respect for Larry Cohen. Like anybody that is going to go steal shots of people shooting machine guns off the side of the Chrysler building, you know, in Midtown Manhattan, and, you know, like, and get away with it. Like I have nothing but respect for that guy. So man, yes.
Nice.
Give me some more of that, please. I miss him every day. I think he was one of those guys that really put a little bit of an edge and sort of understood what the pulse of the time was and was able to sort of comment on that.
Nice. What about you, Don? Had you watched this a million times or was this new? Or?
Bunch as a kid. And I think I watched it again a few years ago. And I will say this, many aspects of it aged very well with its analysis, or I should say the metaphors and representation and some of the very unsubtle things that are brought up. But it also gives you a good idea of like how certain individuals, let's just say cishet men, feel as though there's a certain way that women are supposed to behave around them, what they're supposed to do for them, which I would say is a great way to look on it and say like, hey, you guys are really being douchebags about this stuff. But then you kind of question with the time period, were they really going for that, or were they just kind of like, we're just gonna have this one character who's, you know, a misogynist light, and we got another character who's just like, hey, you owe me sex after this thing that we're gonna do.
Oh yeah, there's stuff. I mean, there's like snapshots of the time too, where the attitudes were super different. But like some of the stuff that he was like talking about, and I just look at it now and I'm like, fuck, he was so far ahead of the curve, you know, on like what we're putting in our bodies, you know, and like, and, man, he's just like, hey, maybe there's like some crazy militia people that are like just huddling up in the middle of the goddamn forest that maybe we should be worried about those people, you know? I mean, they're kind of the good guys here, but you know, they're also not present there. I mean, it's sort of presented as we have to do this sort of scenario, but my God, like just some of that stuff is really like, I think some of it plays better now than it did even then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I read was just that, like you said, he was always ahead of everything. So like people were confused by some of it instead of, like we look at it today and we've been bitching about consumerism and everything for, 40 years now.
Yep.
So, and not that nobody did, but just not the same way. And for me, this movie, I was excited that you picked it because our first episode, I'm just going to ruin my double feature now. Our first episode was They Live.
Yeah.
And They Live is obviously a god of horror and social commentary. And this movie is a god of horror comedy and social commentary. And so obviously the two play really well to me, but I liked the bookend aspect of doing these two. So I was very excited that you picked it. But the other thing I want to throw in is, I look at like even the cameo that I brought up earlier, the Where's the Beef lady, right?
Yeah.
My kids, if they watched this movie, would enjoy this movie. Mm-hmm. They would not understand that there was anything else in that scene at all. You know, like and that's both a testament to it and sad because it still works without needing to know the context. Mm-hmm. But like even that is such a commentary on consumerism. You're making this movie that's about these things, but then you do a cameo specifically to reference a commercial. Like that's so fucking beautiful. I don't know. And it's just like that makes me love this so much. I hadn't seen it in like probably 20 years though, but man, I loved it all over again.
Yeah, like I try to watch it every few years. Like I wait until I've sort of forgotten the beats of it. So like 4 or 5 years usually, and then I'll put it on again and just be shocked at how like laser focused and precise it is on just a myriad of different issues, stuff that we're still dealing with, like Chocolate Chip Charlie, you'd seen this movie before, right, Don? So it wasn't like a shock when like some of the really racist, ugly stuff sort of happens. I was hoping that wasn't going to be the case. I was like, oh God, like Don's going to be like, oh, Brian picked this one, huh?
Oh, really? Look, Garrett Morris being having the ability to play Garrett Morris was great. I mean, I expected that from not from Paul Sorvino. I don't mean it like that. I mean, but Paul Sorvino's character in this film because of what they're representing. But I would even go a little bit further as far as what the two of you are arguing about this idea of not escaping consumerism. Mm-hmm. If you were to look at this film, you look at a film like Where Evil Lurks and think about it through the context of COVID. As far as like that's what the conversation is about. It's about COVID and how we responded to it, how it it could happen to anybody. Mm-hmm. But the same thing here could be said with this film with respect to Amazon and how you can't get away from Amazon now. It's everywhere. Mm-hmm. And even at the end of the film, when those two executives are before they get stuffed on the stuff, they make that argument like, well, I mean, all you did was cover it with rocks. We're going to find it somewhere else on the planet, and we're just going to keep going. Just the idea that you have people. I think that by the time of this, I think Uba's story is going to get even more. But there's some YouTuber Uba something in Britain, and he did a 40 or 50 minute episode about how to basically fuck over Amazon for fucking all of us over. And he had he had conversations with lawyers and all these people about how to do it. Mm-hmm. And even as he was wrapping up his episode and talking about it, he said, I'm just one person who did this. The thing is, we're going to need a lot of you to do something against what is taking place. Yeah. Which is, my complaint with this movie is I feel like the ending doesn't do it justice. I mean, the ending is the biggest work of fiction throughout this movie, because I have no confidence that if the American public were warned about something or advised about, labor issues at Amazon, or advised about this chemical, you shouldn't eat this food because it's going to do X, Y, and Z to you, they fucking eat it anyway. I didn't die.
Yep.
Well, there's that great scene in Sorry to Bother You where that happens. Like he goes public with all this knowledge of the thing in that movie that I don't want to ruin if you haven't seen it. But and everybody's just like, okay.
Yeah, they just kind of shrug. Okay.
And it's like a news story for like an hour. Like, what's that?
Everybody's like, "Oh my god, that's the greatest news ever!" And they and they praise the guy who owns the company. Like, what? This is. I mean, think about where we are with people like Elon. You can tell someone, here's how this guy got his money. This is what happened. These are not this guy's ideas. This guy did this. He didn't build anything. And you will still have people come to you and say, well, he's worth like $300 billion because you don't make that kind of money being stupid. Like, well,
yeah,
you know what?
You make that kind of money, from having
being
a family that has money and, then investing that money in completely legal ways. But like, everybody knows that's some bullshit. So, yeah.
His fans don't.
And not only that, his fans don't, but they're drinking the Kool-Aid already. So like they're already taking the stuff. So like they're lost.
They're having trouble getting their cyber trucks or whatever the hell they're called opened and charged. And
there's literally a Tesla dealership like a block from my house. And so when I'm out like running around doing errands, running to the grocery store or something like that, occasionally I will see a Cybertruck out on the road. And I take the opportunity to pull up right beside them, drive the same speed that they are, and hook my arm out of the goddamn window so that I can flip them off, because fuck all that shit. Oh my God. But yeah, I mean, like the real end of the stuff is the black market starts to get the stuff.
Right.
And I'm just like, well, that's actually probably what would really happen, if this happened. And I was just like, yeah, like they don't care. They don't care who it hurts or, how they get it or they just want the stuff, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get it. And so like just like there's this culture of like, enough is not enough. It's how we're getting into a lot of the problems that we're getting into right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it sort of tells you what the problem is right in the statement, but if enough is not enough, then enough, what will ever be enough? Nothing will ever be enough. It always has to be more, And so like, I love that it sort of touches on the corporate greed. I love the fact that an industrial saboteur is the hero of this movie. Right? Like, what kind of movie? Like, usually an industrial saboteur is like somebody that like Bond is chasing down in the beginning of the movie. Or it's like, it's too late, Mr. Bond. The wheels are already turning. Or
the proposed villain in Willy Wonka.
Yeah, and so like I love the fact that like this guy is like, yeah, I'm dirty and I'm terrible, but you're going to pay me, so you should probably do that. And like there are even lines that the industrial saboteur will not cross.
Yep.
And it's like, wow, even this guy has a moral compass where he's like, I'm going to do terrible things for money, but I can't do this terrible. Like, it's like, oh, I'm going to fuck some people out of some money. Okay. Like I'm not going to be super happy about that, but I could understand somebody's reasoning behind that. But like, I'm going to let a corporation just release this product that kills its consumers, and like, is going to like wipe out probably 75% of humanity. Like there are certain lines where you're just like, okay, maybe this is a line I don't cross. Like taking a little bit of money to be an asshole, because I like, fucked up the formula for maybe that's how New Coke happened. It's like, they're like, oh, thank God somebody wrote down the old Coke recipe somewhere. We finally found it.
All right, for all you kids listening, at one point, the nation was in crisis, not because we had a convicted felon or a really old man running for president or nuclear war or famine or anything like that. We were in a crisis that involved protests in the streets over Coca-Cola inventing a new version of Coca-Cola.
But it tested so well, Don.
How have we not been doing segments like this the whole show?
I don't know. I feel like we should just be breaking down into this and then like talks about wrestling probably.
That's right.
Yeah, it's kind of what we are in real life anyway. So
that's all we ever do.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like I love the industrial saboteur as like a main character. I love the 10-year-old kid. Like the 10-year-old kid is the eyes of the audience, right? You know, where you're just like you're supposed to be being taken care of by these people. They're supposed to have your best interests at heart. And you know for a fact that they are doing the wrong thing, you know? And so like this like spoke to me. Like when I watched it as a kid, you know, a lot of the subtext of like the political aspects and certainly the racism of Chocolate Chip Charlie and, you know, things like that were not really, it's kind of lost on me at 13 years old. But like understanding that like the people that are supposed to be looking out for you, not having your best interests at heart, like that really hit home immediately for me. And like, I'd never really seen a movie where the kid is kind of like this, right? Where it's like, everybody thinks the kid is crazy, you know, and like everybody's just telling this kid to just go along with it. But like the kid knows, you know, and like you're not stupid when you're a kid. Like I think a lot of people think, well, you know, you don't have any, there's no wisdom, you don't have any perspective yet or anything like that. So like it's going to suck. But you know, when you look back on this, you'll look at it in a different light. And I think that a lot of times that's not the case at all. You know, like you are absolutely sort of like determining what kind of person you want to be, you know, and that's definitely the age when it starts to happen, where you start to sort of like question things and like start to, you know, get your own ideas about stuff. And I'll tell you right now that if I saw a can of yogurt in my refrigerator, like try and eat the grapes, you know, like next to it or something, I think maybe I would not eat that too, you know? And so like, I totally get the perspective of the kid. I also like, even though it is definitely a racist archetype, like the Chocolate Chip Charlie character is actually really cool. Like he's a businessman, right? You know, like he's the one he's fighting on the front lines, you know, because like this corporation has come in and sort of like, you know, taken over. They bought his brand, you know, so now they got everything that was sort of worth anything from Chocolate Chip Charlie. And so they don't really give a shit what he does now, you know, like spend your money and shut up, you know, is kind of their attitude towards that. And like, he's willing to like even put his neck out there. And, you know, any other movie, Chocolate Chip Charlie is like such a one-note character that you just don't care about at all, probably. And like, I mean, the fact that it's Garrett Morris is great. That's another thing that I really love about Larry Cohen is he loved character actors, right? Like this whole movie is all of his movies are full of character actors. But like Michael Moriarty, who is as character actor as they get, right, is his main character. And you got Danny Aiello, and you got Garrett Morris, and you got, oh man, I know I'm forgetting like other people right off the top of my head here. Paul Sorvino.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of different Patrick O'Neill. There's a lot of different people in this movie that he just understood that, like, because like there are going to be those characters. People are probably going to know who Garrett Morris is, you know, because of Saturday Night Live. But for the most part, when you watch a Larry Cohen movie, you're going to be, oh, I know that guy from something, right? You know, like I'm not 100% certain. Like, you know, they're not going to sit there like me. I'm just going to go, oh man, Paul Sorvino, you know, or like all these different like character actors. But like they're going to go, oh, I know that guy from something, you know, and like they don't necessarily have like a set idea of what that person should be. so like they can sort of allow the actor to be malleable to the position that they're playing, and let that role sort of come out. And like, I just think that that's another thing that is just so great, because like there's nobody that like takes his movie over. The movie is about what Larry Cohen wants it to be about, right? So if he wants to talk about consumerism, that's what the movie's going to be about. And like all the actors are just going to like, portray that for him. But he doesn't want like Brad Pitt coming in and like, stealing the whole movie from the idea, like that's part of the reason that he chose not to work in Hollywood, even though he was largely successful in that realm, because he thought that, a lot of times once you get into productions that big, you start stepping all over everything that makes the creative process great, and sort of ruins it. And, to a degree, I mean, I get it. There's arguments both sides. I think I sort of fall more on the Larry Cohen side, because like there's definitely good big budget movies out there, but like I think that movie theaters are really sort of feeling it right now, where it's just like lots of derivative sequels, reboots, and just not a lot of original content out there. The original content is going to the streamers, and so there's not really a pressing need to go out and see Fast and the Furious 15, most fastest, more furious, just or whatever it's going to be. I don't know. And so like Larry Cohen sort of understood that. And he's like, I mean, part of it was that there was the market was available there, and I think the market still is kind of available. Like, if you're starting to look at like the things that are starting to have legs at the movies these days, it's the movies that are smarter. Like Thelma, I cannot recommend. We'll swing way off of topic here. Thelma is the most wholesome, delightful movie that you will see, and it is doing very well because like it is not the same old shit, And then horror movies are really starting to make a comeback, like sort of real high concept stuff, because they're cheap to make, and like they have all these movie screens that they need to fill, because like, Hollywood told them for years, like, make them bigger, make them more, make them louder, and now they're just like, oh, well, maybe that's not the model that we want anymore. And like, but we still have 25 screens that we need to fill, And so I'm hoping that this is going to be sort of a renaissance of like a new sort of exploitation drive-in sort of feel. And so that the new Larry Cohens of the world can sort of be created. There's a Roger Corman out there right now, just waiting to, get his movie in 200 movie theaters. And that would like change his whole life, and those things are possible now because like of the excess of Hollywood and just pushing it to be bigger and bigger. And then, like circumstances that happen in the world, like COVID, where you're just like, man, maybe I just don't need to rush out as quickly anymore to see things, or, it really needs to be an event for me to make that trip or whatever. Or it needs to be something smaller that I think is going to be interesting. And so I miss the Larry Cohens of the world. I wish there were more guys like that now. I mean, maybe we can get back to that. But like Larry Cohen just always talked about interesting stuff in all of his different movies. And like, I definitely feel like the stuff is one of his best. So I think it's subtle and not subtle, and over the top and not over the top. And like, just, I think, brought together a lot of the strengths of what Larry Cohen did very well.
I want to go back a little bit to your saboteur, our good guy David here.
Yeah.
I kind of, and I don't know if maybe I was trying to read too much into this, but I almost felt like he thinks he's a Robin Hood. Like he thinks, I'm fucking over the rich. This is great, and I'm getting money as I'm doing it, and like I'm going to the highest bidder. But look at everybody I get to fuck along the way. And like, I could see how his ego, if he thinks this, like how his ego would justify his actions as, well, I'm fucking over these guys, but I'm doing good things for others. And then maybe that leads to his lines as well. And that's just something I was thinking about while I was watching it, was wondering if he has this this thing where that's what he thinks he's doing.
I mean, it must, because like he gets to a point where he's just like, this is too much, you know. He did sort of have, he has a very cavalier attitude, you know, towards what he does, and seems to be pretty okay with it. So maybe there is a little bit of the Robin Hood aspect to it.
It seemed like once he's hurting, or once people are hurting normal people, then he wants to stop it more. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah, well, like when it's the big corporate bigwigs, he doesn't really care so much. He's like, you know, we'll take a little bit of money from them, but who cares? Because they have a lot of money and they're not really going to miss it, you know. But like when it's like, oh, Joe Sixpack is now suddenly being affected by this isn't so cool anymore.
What do you got over there, Don?
Well, I was going to say, I was going to make it won't make sense at first, but it will make sense when I'm done, obviously. This could be comparable to the Muppet movie, the original from 1979, because there's a similar situation that unfolds, and my kid and I watched it earlier today. And
I just watched it. I was actually really upset because they had a big 45th anniversary showing of the Muppet movie, and I'm like, I watched this goddamn movie as a child in a movie theater, you motherfuckers. So yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
we're all
it's a wonderful movie. I love it.
It is, but there's that one moment, you know, is as far as the idea of Kermit going to Hollywood, right? That's the premise. He wants to go to Hollywood, get a contract, right?
Yep.
And within his own area, this guy says, "Hey, you can represent my restaurant. We sell frog's legs." There's some frog out there that would have taken the deal, taken the money.
Oh yeah,
and looked at it as, at least it's not me. In the same way that James was talking about with David, I'm taking money from these guys. You know, fuck them. They're rich. They if I take 50,000 off of them and I don't help them out or don't finish it, whatever, they're not going to chase me down over that.
Yeah.
Whereas you're actually causing pain and harm to people. And what I wrote down in my notes was, you know, this mass consumerism and the idea that you have people who are promoting products or endorsing products and they don't fucking consume them. And then we get in this thing of, you know, buying something because somebody's name is on it, or buying something because of the label, or buying something because of it's a certain brand, to where I could see people if this were made for a modern audience, and that's nothing against the movie, I just mean as far as like taking what we have now and applying it, you would have somebody saying, you know, well, fuck you, I'm not giving up my Apple phone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't give a shit if it spies on me. I'm not deleting, you know, whatever app. This is the thing that I use to, I don't know, whatever meaningless task or meaningful task, I'm using it. But you know what? Yeah, there might be stealing some data, but they didn't steal my data.
Right.
You know, or they scam your grandma, but they didn't scam mine, you know, whatever. People have a really weird relationship with doing the right thing and doing the right thing at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, and we're all guilty of it, you know. Like, I have an Apple phone, and I know what terrible things they do. So, you know, and like that's something that you have to sort of like balance. And it's tough. I mean, there's no like real easy answer for any of that, because like, what are we going to do? Go back to the Stone Age? You know, I mean, I guess we could, but like, I don't know that things were better then. So I don't know. Maybe they were better then. It's hard to say.
And it's also one of those things of, you have that exploitative aspect of capitalism, right? It's they know that something's wrong with whatever this is, but I can make a lot of money off of it. Because even with those first guys who discover it, or the first guy who discovers it, it's just so weird. Like, he's walking out, he sees something bubbling up in the ground, and decides I'm going to first touch it, and then second I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
You're like, they're on a construction site, like they're at an industrial quarry site, and he's going to, like, anybody doesn't know that much about rocks. Rocks have radioactive elements in them. They have radioactive, depending on what you've got. The fact that, I mean, just that idea of there's no telling what the hell was there. There could have been any types of toxic dumping, considering that it's the 80s, There could have been any number of things that could have been brought up. I shouldn't even pick on the 80s, 70s, and 80s. But then James messaged me about this, and I guess it's a good point to talk about it. They run off that idea of, like, it's all natural, it's good for you, it's healthy, it helps you lose weight, it does all these things, right? And it's one of those things, kind of like certain drugs that people are taking for their weight, which everybody's on a different journey. But the idea that people are so quick to jump into something that's going to give them a quick fix, or it's going to be something that I quickly become addicted to because I didn't look at the risks. And once I found out the risks, I made two decisions. I had two different options. One is, oh my God, here are the risks, and I'm going to stop using said thing. And two, here are the risks. Well, I've been doing this long, or in this case of the stuff, it's been eating me and tearing me down for so long, I can't. And even when they have that discussion with the scientists, they make he's telling David, like, it all depends on the person, or it might have been a factor, but it all depends on the person as far as how quickly it activates in you. You can have a little bit of the stuff and nothing happens to you. You can have a lot of the stuff and nothing happens to you. It just varies depending on the person. And I mean, you can make a direct connection with any type of consumer product. Like, you have some people that it takes them a while to warm up to something, and then some other folks, they're right in. They are full-fledged. I'm Nike. I don't wear Adidas or Reebok around. Just from nothing other than this is something that I find cool or interesting.
Yeah,
or delicious.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I've dabbled in heroin for many, many years, just lightly, and enjoy it recreationally. Shelley took heroin one time and has been strung out for the last 7 years. I don't know if you know this or not. So
that sounds right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring our laundry out for everybody here, but just
that reminds me.
What you were saying resonated with me, Don. So
a very popular aspect of pop culture in the 1980s is that sitcoms from time to time would have a very special episode.
Oh, yeah.
Typically focused on drugs and alcohol use, targeting teenagers and preventing them from trying to do it.
Don, I was thinking about going to the bike shop later. So
nope, I'm leaving. You can stay. I know that story.
Saved by the Bell was my favorites.
Oh man,
I'm so excited to hear which episode.
No, I meant for drug episodes.
I'm so excited.
What
episode was it?
Good Lord.
Anyway, yeah, but I mean, the idea of these artificial, things that they're putting into food was sort of this really new idea at that time. And America got really overweight in the 25 years since that happened. So I don't know if there's any correlation between the two things, but
one of the things that people got misled on was non-fat or no fat, and all that the food producers who did this, actually, I shouldn't say all, but the ones who did it, they just increased the sugar because they were taking the fat out, which added, was helping with the flavor, added the sugar that added more flavor to it.
Yep. And
because the sugar consumption went up and caloric condition went up, because there was that idea of, if you eat this little thing, this one snack is 100 calories, or this is low fat. And so people weren't looking at the calories on the boxes and what was in it, and just ate what they thought was diet food, which all food is diet food because it's just an issue of moderation.
Right.
just the idea that they're eating this stuff and overeating on it and actually making themselves sicker, and then we get into body dysmorphia, poor eating habits, you know, people on television shilling all types of shit for people to buy to lose weight, or
Instagram giving people unrealistic expectations, you know, like these poor kids today, you know, like I'm glad that I didn't have any of those. I mean, there was still, don't get me wrong, there's lots of hot people, there's still television, there's still models, all those sorts of things. But like, I wasn't just constantly bombarded with like, look at my 0.06% body fat, you know, body that I have because I have a personal chef and a personal trainer, and you know, all I do is work out for 4 hours a day and all these things.
And I have
like
video editing software.
Yeah, exactly. And I can like, you know, like sand the edges so that, you know, like my curves look nice instead of like creepy or whatever. Like we're not supposed to have like, you know, different body types or whatever. But like, I'm just glad that I didn't have those sort of expectations on top of everything else, because like, like it just seems overwhelming to me. And like they're touching on some of that stuff in this movie, but like I wonder, see, those are the sorts of things that I would love to see, like what Larry Cohen's, you know, thoughts are about those things.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that I miss the Roger Cormans for, you know, where they're just like, we don't really care what you know, Roger Corman didn't really care what anybody made. You know, he gave him a title and he's like, and it needs to be 85 minutes long because it has to be, you know, 3 reels at the drive-in or whatever. But like, you know, I don't care what kind of content goes into it, and then they can make crazy stuff that, you know, and he didn't really care if there's any of that counterculture shit in it. A lot of them don't. Most of them really like it because that's a selling point. And so like, I mean, Corman didn't just rip off horror movies. That's just what he's sort of famous for. I mean, he ripped off sci-fi movies, he ripped off biker movies, he ripped off, you know, anything that was sort of like in the zeitgeist at the time. But like, he gave lots of people opportunities to sort of tell these really gritty stories. And I miss stuff like that because like, you know, who's financing William Lustig's movies now? Nobody, because Larry Cohen's dead, you know? So, and like that guy, another one, you know, he was the guy who made Maniac and Maniac Cop and worked with Larry Cohen many, many times. That guy's a fountain of great stories if you've never heard. Like I would just absolutely say go out and listen to William Lustig talk about the old days. That's amazing stuff. Stuff. I pulled it all back around. I didn't even mean to do that. But yeah, I mean,
today it would end with the stuff being shoved into the Oreos. So,
right? Yeah, exactly.
And it even has stuff right on the package. The overstuffed mega stuff. See?
Mega stuff. Yeah. And there's just lots of things. So like I miss some of the things that I miss about this time period. The use of miniatures in this movie is fucking phenomenal. I miss that so much, you know, like when they have the amazing sequence at the end where they blow up the quarry and like, you know, all the rocks rain down and shit like that. I'm just like, why doesn't anybody do this anymore? Like this looks completely real because it is completely real. Like that's really happening in front of the camera. And then like, why don't you use your fancy bells and whistles to make that look even better, you know? Mm-hmm. And then you have like something physical. And then, you know, to me, the best effects are the ones that like take advantage of all of the aspects that you can for like the physical piece that's there in the moment. And then you add like the little, you know, digital blood spurts and things like that, you know, after the fact. And when you use them in conjunction, oh my God, it's just it's like absolute beauty. Like it's still never going to be Dario Argento, pumping out like red paint, out of somebody's neck or something like that. But like it's magical to me. And I don't think a lot of people, they're just like, oh, let's just do it digital and post. It's like, nah, man, that's fucking lazy. I want to see matte paintings. I want to see miniatures. I want to see those sorts of things, like the old timey things that Hollywood used to do. Those things still work, so like, why not sort of do that? And I don't know. To me, you could be more ambitious with like your low budget movies if you did stuff like that. Because like, I mean, that rock quarry explosion at the end would have been a very expensive scene to do.
Oh yeah.
If they were really blowing up a rock quarry, but when you get like a bunch of miniatures there, I'm sure it still was not cheap, but like it just looks so good and it's just fun and like everybody knows what it is, but like if you can't do suspension of disbelief in a movie, like make your movie entertaining and then nobody will fucking care, right? Like I know it's a miniature, but I don't fucking care because it's in this great movie that's so fun and then it looks cool, so like I miss those things and I wish more people would do that. Maybe that's going to be, maybe if I ever get into filmmaking, I'll do all the throwbacks to like stop motion and miniatures and matte paintings and all those sorts of things. But
You should.
I should. You're absolutely right.
I just assumed that they used AI for this, so
Oh my God. AI wishes.
Yeah, right.
Can I just say, I love that casting chose two real brothers. It's so rare to see this where brothers legitimately look alike. Like these two kids are so fucking close. Like there were times I was like, wait, was that the same kid? What the fuck just happened? And I thought that was also interesting because it's got to be easier, right? Like,
oh yeah,
one kid doesn't have a big part in this.
Yep.
Like he's just there to be an addict.
Yeah,
and
he's just there to be an asshole. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an asshole, and then he becomes addicted to the stuff just like his parents.
Yep.
And that's the other thing I wanted to talk about, the addiction aspect on top of consumerism.
Yep.
You can't stop eating this.
Yeah.
Like once it's in you, you're fucked. And I love that as the audience, we got that. And we see how it plays out throughout, but it's never like there's no news thing like people are turning into addicts. Like, we didn't have to have it totally spelled out for us. It's all there, but we get to see the absolute effects of this. And you were talking about how the 10-year-old kid is our identifier there. He's there for the audience. And he gets to also see how truly bad this shit is. And he's walking around with his own version of Hitchcock's Bomb because he's seen it. He knows the shit that's coming and no one else does.
Yep.
And then you're a 10-year-old kid. And who the fuck believes a 10-year-old kid about something?
Nobody.
Oh, the fucking yogurt was moving? Fuck you, kid. No one believes that. And I love how deep that characterization is, how real that is. And then the absolute horror of it, because one of my favorite definitions that I personally wrote of what I consider horror is when you know something's wrong and no one else acts like anything's wrong.
Yep.
And that's maddening. And so there's all these levels with this 10-year-old kid and his interaction with it, but it's also a minute, 30 seconds? Like, so much is done with this. It's fucking fantastic. And then you also see how fast it affects the family. And you had said like it affects different people differently, obviously. But like if this kid ate any, he's fucked genetically.
Yep.
I don't know. There's so much going on that's so beautifully written with this. And then if you pitched it to somebody, you're just like, and then the fucking yogurt moves, but only the kid sees it. And it's like, okay, big deal.
Right.
Man, I love that.
Yeah. I do love the fact that I'd noticed that over the years and had figured that out, that the two brothers are actual brothers. And then they sort of interact like brothers, so it's just like, oh man, this all sort of fits together perfectly.
You just never see that. You always see two kids that like look nothing alike and they're just
right. And like, I mean, in most movies, the 10-year-old kid's either going to be the main character or he's going to be a throwaway character,
Yeah.
right? You know, and so like I like the fact that he is our stand-in because, you know, as much fun as Michael Moriarty is in this movie, you know, he's having a blast, right? He's just eating it up. He loved the Larry Cohen movies. Like he has fun in this. He has fun in Q the Winged Serpent. I'm trying to remember the other movie that he was in, but like him and Larry Cohen work together a lot, which is really impressive because Michael Moriarty never worked with anybody more than once. Like he was very famously, like, you know, part of the very first Law and Order crew, and like really made a stink, like Michael Moriarty does. And they ran him out of town, and then they got, I think it was Sam Waterston, like right away, where it's just like, oh well, we're just going to get somebody in there that is just going to sort of like, you know, hold the fort down or whatever. But like most people had the opinion that Michael Moriarty was a huge pain in the ass to work with. And even Larry Cohen has some really great stories about him, and talking about how like Moriarty made him buy a different hairpiece for every movie that they made together. He's like, I can just imagine at his house, he's got, you know, a box full of like 50 hairpieces he's just gotten from different movies or whatever. So if he wants to, like, you know, look like this way one day, he can. If he wants to look like that way one day, he can. He's like, and Cohen was going on and on about how these hairpieces were not cheap. You know, he's like, he's demanding very expensive hairpieces and things like that. But like, I mean, I feel like Moriarty was a really good choice for this. Like he does lots of very crazy different roles. I mean, anybody that can be like in this movie and in Troll, the original Troll, not Troll 2, and you know, Law and Order and all these different things, you know, I feel like that's super varied. But like, you know, he's like one of those guys. It's like when I hear that Klaus Kinski and Werner Herzog worked together like 5 times or whatever, you know, and I'm just like, wow, everybody talks about what a monster Kinski was, you know, and yet they work together all the time, you know, and like Werner had this really great quote about it, and he's like, well, you know, it's easy to be the good guy when there's a bad guy on the set, you know. And I was like, wow. I was like, that's really, he's like, you know, I'm not like the best guy in the world, and I'm probably gonna like put them through the ringer a little bit or whatever, but like if I have this guy that everybody can come together and hate like collectively as a group, I'm like, wow, I'd never thought of doing that before, but that's really good. And then on top of that, you get the benefit of Klaus Kinski in your film, because like he's a great actor, right? He's a terrible human being. He's a monster of a human being. But man, like every time I see him in a movie, I'm just like, what is Klaus Kinski going to do in this movie? I just can't wait to see, you know? And so like, I don't want to say that Michael Moriarty is the same as Klaus Kinski, but he has the reputation of being difficult to work with. And like Cohen cast him a bunch of times in his movies and worked with him over and over again. And I don't know if that was just because they sort of had similar thoughts about like the way the world works or whatever, but yeah, I just like, I love that. I love the 10-year-old kid. And then to get Garrett Morris, right? You know, because like that's another role that in any other movie would be such a throwaway stereotype. I mean, it's still a stereotype, but like the thing that I think that really you got to give Larry Cohen credit for is that he manages to, he like shows you the stereotype, and then he's like, this character is more than that stereotype. So I don't want you to just think that like this is what that character is, but he shows you sort of the way that actual society presents a lot, you know, like the people that were going nuts about the Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima. I'm just like, why are these fucking things even exist anymore? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, why is this even a goddamn conversation in 2024 or whenever that? What it was recent. It was recent enough where I'm just like, why are we even having like? Are you fucking kidding me with this shit? But like Cohen is like, okay, these people exist, right? But like it's not that's not all that they are, right? So like he had become a pitchman, and become sort of this caricature or whatever, but at the same time, he's like I said, and earlier on, he's on the front lines. He's like doing the intel. He's the one that's like, there's some crazy shit going on, and nobody believes me, and they're just like, they just write another check and they don't fucking care. And like, if that's not corporate America, I don't know what is, and just the way that they sort of carefully cast all these different roles, I think is just a testament of like, just how much Cohen sort of understood that, movies need to be more than just the main character. It doesn't need to just be, paint by numbers. In fact, when you do paint by numbers, that's typically very boring and the best way to get somebody to tune out of your movie. And if you can bring all of this character and flavor to your films, then like, I feel like that's such a huge plus. And then just to have this sort of attitude that he had, man, I'm gonna keep saying how much I miss Larry Cohen, but I do miss Larry Cohen a lot right now. I really do.
What do you have that we haven't hit yet, Don?
I got some of my stupid jokes that I put in here where, dog food time. Well, what I liked about this scene with Danny Aiello and David, where he's having this discussion with this guy at the FDA, and you see how, in a sense, how important it is for him to just make it to retirement.
Yeah.
and count the money, because it's like, 19 years, I got one more year till they retire me. And I was just thinking about how, because he happens to be at the FDA, he's the one who's making the call to allow for this stuff to be there. He knows that it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that it's bad, but that fucking dog is there to make sure he keeps him in check. Which was fun to see him meet his end.
He's a fun little side character, and like is such a government fucko. Like I really appreciate that they sort of went after that character, and like, because there's just so many people that are actually Danny Aiello in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have a dog to keep them from just spilling over into monstrosity. So like, and really, did the dog really help that much? But it did also ultimately bring him to his end. So I guess there's sort of like mixed bag there. But what else, Don? I want to hear what Don, like, what did you think about the racism stuff? Because like,
I chalk it up to, I've seen a lot of it, and
it's not super overbearing in this movie.
No.
So,
It's an 80s movie, so I'm still expecting some things. It's kind of like, all right, what's going to work? What's not going to work?
Don, allow me.
When he was,
it's no, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
No, when Paul Sorvino was like, no, not him. I will allow this colored man to speak.
Oh my God.
Honestly, I started laughing because I'm like, that's how fucking absurd it is. Actually, you know what? I got a story. James is already happy now because he's like, oh fuck, here we go. All right. It's one of those things when you hear it, because it's so old, it's kind of like, what fucking century are you in?
Mm-hmm.
About 20 something years ago, well, whenever I was in college. So when I was in college, one of my jobs was at Bath and Body Works. Talked about it before on here, is no surprise. It was one of those jobs that I had a lot of people that were, coming in and out of the store. Some people, they had their, because of where it was in Statesboro, Georgia, they had their prejudices, and they didn't always make it clear verbally, but they would make it clear with body language.
Yeah.
So from time to time, I would get people like, they didn't want me to touch them, didn't want me to be near them. I'm like, it's fucking, Southeast Georgia. These are some folks who, are still upset about the 13th Amendment. So
when they're talking about hillbillies, they're talking about those folk. So
yeah. But I was working one day, and these two older ladies came in and were chatting up through the store, bringing them up. And one of the women asked me where I was from, and I was thinking like, oh fuck, what kind of question is this? This never goes well.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, I'm American. I was born here. I don't know. And I was like, I don't know what you mean. And she said, oh, we were thinking you were from one of those countries. And I'm like, fuck, hurry up, bring this up so I can get them out of here. Oh, yeah, one of those countries. You know the ones. And I'm like, God damn it.
Oh, my God.
So
they didn't
the
shitholes that Trump was talking about.
Oh, those ladies are probably dead by now. Anyway.
Did one of them happen to sit by you at a showing for Selma? Just asking.
God damn you, James. So anyway, she didn't sit by me. All right. So the lady, she's like, oh, you remind us of our friend Paul. He's from one of those countries. I'm like, oh, okay. But where? And I'm thinking like, oh, she's going to say like Samoa or some shit. So that's the first. She's like, oh, I can't remember what it's called. And I said, Samoa? And she's like, no, that's not it. And she said some other shit. And I was like, I offered something. No, that's not it. Then she turns to me like she, snaps her finger because she got the idea or whatever, the name registered. And she immediately goes, oh, Guam. Paul's from Guam, out loud. He's always getting mistaken for a Negra.
What?
I kid you not.
I did not see this coming.
I was so fucking shocked that this lady said it. I didn't know what to say other than, all right, thank you and have a good day. Come back anytime, or come back soon or whatever. We're having this. It was so like not out of it, but I mean, I was so shocked. Like my normal, here's the end of our transaction, here's your receipt, goodbye, have a good day. That whole spiel came out, and there was nobody else in the store but us. They left. Like the friend, like as soon as she said it, kind of looked at her like, bitch, what the fuck? She just like she kind of but then didn't say anything like, oh, I'm so sorry that she said that, or it was one of those things. Anyway, so
maybe she was stunned that she didn't use the N-word she expected.
Probably. Maybe.
God.
I have no faith in people. I'm sorry.
You're probably right. I mean, I got called it more than a few times while I was there. But they leave the fucking store. I bust out laughing because I just thought it's so stupid. I'm like, a colored man? God damn. Like I would start laughing but he's already got on the stuff. So he's not going to do that. But yeah, I always laugh at stuff like that because I'm like, it's such an old term. It would be like if somebody walked down the street and said, hey, darky, that type of thing. But like, what fucking decade are you in?
Right.
Like, at least give me like a new racial slur, ethnic slur, or some type of pejorative or epithet, that some type of bigoted slur out there. Give me something new. I want to hear something. I'm like, God damn it! I've never heard that one before. Well, this is great.
I hate to break it to you, Don, but the racists are not the most creative people in the world.
I understand.
That is so. Okay, that's horrifying. What year is this? 90 what?
No, this was 2002 or 2003.
What? Are you fucking serious?
I am 1000% serious.
So, okay. Like, I just want you to know that I would have grabbed that woman by her hair and dragged her ass out of that goddamn store if she said that shit to you in front of me. So I just want you to know that not everybody is going to be okay with that shit. And I could get away with it because I'm a white guy. So, you know, like I don't like to, you know, put it in.
Not that I'm encouraging violence, and I appreciate it.
Right.
It's one of those things where I'm kind of like, hey, I'm just glad that people are actually speaking up more about it. Like, God damn, like there's so many people that look at it as I didn't do bad thing or I didn't say the word, so I'm not whatever you want to accuse me of.
Yeah.
But Paul Sorvino's character definitely is it. I'm if I don't know if they chose colored man because they decided not to go with the N word because they're like, we don't want to go that hard with this movie, or they went with colored because it was so silly.
I think so. I mean, you know, when you get down to it, I'm sure that Larry Cohen understood racism as well as anybody else, you know. So I'm sure that he probably blunted it a little bit because the N word was certainly still dropped around that time in like Hollywood movies, you know, like where I'm just like, are you fucking kidding? Like, what was the one that really shocked me when I watched it recently after a long time? Oh, Trading Places. Somebody drops an N-bomb and I'm like, whoa! I'm like,
there's a blackface scene in that one.
Yeah, I know. Yes, exactly. I was also thinking about Dan Aykroyd. Like, can you imagine, like, somebody that was a big mainstream star showing up in like blackface? Oh my God! Like that.
It didn't end well after Ted Danson. Once Ted Danson did it, it then became like, all right, no more.
I mean, it was still probably pretty fucked up in '82. Like, I don't know exactly. I mean, I was 7 years old at the time, but I can't imagine like it was still that prevalent. Jesus,
there was stuff that was, I guess, allowable, and I get the allowable in Trading Places because of what was going on and just the ruse and everything that's going on. But if they've made that, well, you look at Tropic Thunder, right? So there's still people to this. When I saw the movie, I'm like, the use of blackface in that movie was brilliant because it was making a point about how Hollywood whitewashes movies and removes black actors and actresses. Or, I'm sorry, does not include them. And you go so far as to bring a white Australian man who goes through an experimental surgery to turn his skin brownish to give the appearance of being a black person, and then do all the affectations of a caricature. And that was what the issue, like it not get the actual thing in reality is the offensive thing. And the fact that people would go ahead and be okay with it, as opposed to, you know, Robert Downey. I thought it was brilliant. I mean,
nobody could have played Kirk Lazarus the way that Scarlett Johansson did. I mean, it was just fucking amazing. What a great movie.
God damn it. I set you up and I thought you forgot.
Also, can I just say that's my second favorite costume in the movie because Les Grossman is a goddamn god, and I still want a full movie of just Les Grossman.
It's so good.
I thought you were going to say that was your second favorite costume I had ever done was the one where I cosplayed as Scarlett Johansson.
That's pretty good.
That sequence where Les Grossman says, "Who's he call on the key grip?" I can't even remember, but he's like, "Who's the grip?"
Yeah, the grip. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, "Me." He's like, "I want you to go over there and punch that guy in the face as hard as you fucking can." You know, and I'm just like, that is exactly the way that producers were at that time. So.
I still constantly quote, "Take 2 steps back and literally fuck your own face." It's like the greatest line ever to me. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get us totally off track. I had to make my ScarJo joke.
But I appreciate that because, and not just, I don't, like you said, black actors, but like I think they just whitewash actors of color in general.
They definitely do. I just mean in that sense, it was going to the historical context, and you had that conversation with Mr. Booty Sweat. I can't remember what the character's name was, but I just remember that he was selling booty sweat throughout the movie.
Yes.
Damn it. Can I have this back? I'm so excited. that ScarJo did a great job as Kirk Lazarus, and I don't think that Emma Stone could have pulled it off. So I'm glad that they cut her from the movie. Boom!
God.
There we go. All right.
Oh, that's true. They couldn't afford Angelina Jolie.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I feel like Colin Jost with the Black Superman jokes. Hang on, I've thought of another one.
Oh
Oh
Lord.
my God.
Yeah. So there's lots of different things that I appreciate about this movie, and I'm glad that you let me pick a little bit silly. I mean, I guess you just let everybody pick the movies that they want to talk about, but I'm glad that you were open to me picking a sillier title than what I'd previously picked in the past. I think that, for the most part, we had either done like just stone cold classics or movies that I thought were just had some real importance to them. And I'm not saying that the stuff doesn't have importance to it. I think it does. And I would really encourage everybody to take a look at it, because like you're going to be shocked if you watch it, because it is so like it's so on point about what's going on in the current moment that like it feels like it should have been made like now. And the fact that he did this 30 years ago, 27 or whatever it is, but like I said, like I feel like some people are so far ahead of the curve that like people don't even see the curve yet, and so like he's just like, oh my God, artificial, ingredients and, consumerism and, the way that the government fucks you over and all these different things. And people are like, oh, that's kind of a dark perspective there, Larry. Is it really that bad? And like, if anything, he didn't sell it quite as dark as it should have been. So,
all right, I have one last thing to derail where we've been.
Yeah.
I wrote in my notes, Jesus fucking Christ, this is Trump and his followers. Because when you ask them, and I'm sorry if you've listened to this show this long, and I don't mean this episode, I mean this damn program. If you listen to this show for this long, you realize that this is not a safe space for Trump supporters. You're just proving the point. You're proving the point. There is nothing that's being offered. And you look at the stuff, right? It's not what it claims to be. It's not a dessert, or I mean, it could be a dessert depending on what your perspective on a dessert is. But it's not a prepared item. It's not something that's cooked. It's not something that's processed. It's, in essence, is a raw material, right? And you see a loyalty to the stuff that I would argue would have people foaming at the mouth, but you have people who are so addicted to it that becomes their identity. That becomes the only thing that they consume. It consumes them. And I would venture to argue that the same way in which someone becomes rotten from the inside from the stuff is the same way that someone gets rotted from the inside by ingesting all the hateful rhetoric and programs and ideas and everything else. But when you tell those people that there's a problem, they immediately tell you, no, you don't see why we're trying to make whatever great again, or you don't understand why this person is so great and all the good things that they're doing, or it becomes a personal attack onto you as to, you don't understand, this is the greatest thing ever, this is the greatest dessert, I'm losing weight, I'm doing all these great things, but then you miss the fact that, I mean, to pull it into politics, you talk about how great the economy is and how much money is being made and all these things, but you don't notice that your neighbor's water is poisoned because regulations have been taken away. So it becomes that thing of this stuff is putting up that mask of, hey, here's something good for you to consume. Meanwhile, it's consuming you. And this political faction, party, cult, whatever it is proposing, hey, here are all the great things that we're going to do. We're going to make America stronger. We're going to have more money. We're going to do this. Everybody's going to want to fuck you. All these types of things. I'm saying that I cannot actually do. But if I get you to believe in that this is harmless, I can then do all the harmful shit while you're distracted by the shiny, I don't know, the shiny, what the fuck is the Turbo Tech, or what is it called? The Tesla Cybertruck. You're distracted by the Cybertruck or big boobs. Like that's where we're going with this. Like you have all this shit, all these rights, all these things that are being taken away because some 80-year-old, pick which 80-year-old, your 80-year-old candidate can't shut the fuck up and do what they should do. No, I'm not going to say what either one of them should do. I'm just going to say they should do something so that their fandoms can shut the fuck up.
That'd be great.
I would love for us to not be in the goddamn shit that we're in, but I don't think that we really have that option. So
doesn't seem that way.
Yeah. So anyways, the stuff very much like Trump. I think that is actually very accurate.
It's some stuff. It's great.
It's the best stuff. We have the
I'm
best
actually
stuff.
surprised he doesn't have a cameo in this.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Honestly, this would be like right up his alley. So
where the bathroom is or something.
Yeah. So before we get off of the podcast here, I tried very desperately to change the movie that we were going to do for this episode. And so I just want to give a small little shout out to a movie called I Saw the TV Glow that I just recently saw on the big screen that I very much enjoyed. And it's the story of two sort of like, they're just weirdos, you know, that sort of bond over a television show that was shown on a sort of Nick at Night, like, or a Nickelodeon, the later, you remember when they used to do the Nickelodeon, it would like switch over at like
Nick at Night,
9 o'clock or something, and they'd start showing the Nick at Night reruns.
Yeah, Nick at Night,
but they would,
Nick classics,
right? But they would show sort of like the more young adult, the little more mature stuff, you know, later on. And so, like the idea behind it is that the show is kind of like, it really reminds me of Buffy more than anything else, but it's these two weirdos bonding over a television show that they have, and then weird stuff sort of starts to happen from there. I don't want to get like too much into it. I don't know that I could really spoil anything in this movie. But it was a movie that I saw that I was just very I was very surprised at how much, like, I'd like the director, Jane Sjoberg is the director's name. And she made a movie called We're All Going to the World's Fair. I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago that I liked, but I was just sort of like, it felt like a first time filmmaker's film, you know? And so you want to kind of see what they're going to do and see how they're going to progress and see how they're going to grow as an artist. And like, this is exactly the sort of thing that you want to see. It sort of goes into, I feel like this would really speak to probably us in particular, because like, it's got a very late 90s feel. So like, that was sort of like our sweet spot for either graduating or being right out of high school and sort of like getting our feet wet with like what we kind of wanted to do, you know, and getting away from the people that were holding us back. And like, I just felt very like, even if you don't have body dysmorphia or, you know, things of that nature, you can still relate to this, because like, I very much was a kid that grew up in a small, very right-wing town that, you know, was just sort of like, oh, this is all great, and we can't wait to make more money, and like making money is the only important thing. And like I just found myself constantly looking to Chicago, going, why are all these cool things like so close yet so far, but like they have this draw to me, and like that's what this movie sort of felt like a little bit, was that draw to like culture and to like your own people and finding your own family and those sorts of things. And so I did, even though it doesn't have anything to do with the stuff or Larry Cohen or any of that stuff, I did want to take a moment to take an opportunity to say this is a very good movie, with a like sort of interesting, fun throwback soundtrack, and some really great performances. It's trippy and weird, and like if you're looking for like a really strong narrative film, this might not be for you. But I wanted to sort of like put that out there because I know that the people that listen to this podcast are the people that are open to these sorts of films. And like I'm glad it was an A24 movie. Seems like it's doing pretty decent, and it feels to me like this is going to be a director that gets the opportunity to continue to make films, which is really all I want from like an interesting voice like this. But like I was just sort of like blown away. The cinematography is incredible. Like if they wanted to get a nomination for like the cinematography for the Oscars or something like that, I think they could make a case. I don't know if they're going to get nominated, but like it might be one of those things where it's not impossible that could happen, and it could get more eyes on a small film like this. But I know this is probably not playing by a lot of people like locally, but I will let you know that A24's contract has been picked up by HBO. So like Max will be showing this movie at some point in the near future would be my guess. I'm not 100% exactly when, but I just wanted to put it on people's radars because I think that this is an interesting film by a director that has sort of a perspective that is just going to be different than what most people are used to. And anytime that I can sort of like expose people to those sorts of people, I just want to use that opportunity. So yeah, I saw the TV Glow. It's very, very good. I liked it quite a bit. Probably going to piss some people off if you're looking for like a straightforward, like, oh, I want like a story and all these, there's a story there for sure. But like, it's more, the story reminds me more of like the Ari Asters of the world, where it's like, it's a dark story and you may not like where it goes. So.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, we might as well continue with movie recs. So if people liked the stuff, what should they watch that would go with that? Since you said this would not.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like any movie. So let me just go ahead and say, like, go see lots of Larry Cohen movies. Like Larry Cohen made so many great movies over the years. I already mentioned It's Alive. You mentioned They Live earlier. But,
and I'm going to in a minute as well.
Yeah, perfect. But It's Alive is a great movie that sort of has ideas about abortion that, wow, that's suddenly kind of a hot topic again. Let me think. Oh, so he has a really great movie called And God Told Me To, which is about all these murders start happening in New York City. And when they catch whoever it is that committed the murders, they all say the same thing. God told me to do it. And so that has sort of an interesting look at religion and just the way that it sort of like can be sort of overwhelming. Cue the Winged Serpent if you want to watch another one that has Michael Moriarty, and is a Larry Cohen movie. I would definitely recommend that one as well. Like Larry Cohen just had so many fun movies, in my opinion, that were just very all over the map. I feel like, like he would make something like The Stuff, and then he would make something much more mainstream, like Bestseller, which is like a hitman approaches a writer to help him create like his next movie, but like the overlap from like the violence sort of runs into that life. That's James Woods and Brian Dennehy. James Woods is the hitman. Brian Dennehy is the writer. I mean, I just feel like Larry Cohen had a million really great movies that like are just interesting takes on a lot of different things. Maniac Cop. I mean, there's a lot. I feel like I could just go on forever for the Larry Cohen movies. So I'll say that. And then there's a movie that I really like called Habit. That was Larry Fessenden. That's a different Larry. But that is like a sort of like take on vampire movies in the guise of like it being a more like an addiction. And so I feel like, and it's got a very New York feel to it. So, I mean, that was something that Larry Cohen always liked to sort of do, was that New York was almost always a character in his movies. And so like, I think that Larry Fessenden he's another New York actor, but New York is not always like a focal point. But this is one where I feel like Larry Fessenden wrote, directed, and acted. He's like the main actor in that movie. He's great. I love Larry Fessenden. He's one of those guys where you go, "Oh, that guy," you're like, you've seen him in a million things. But so there's some recommendations for you.
Nice. All right. Well, I always do a double feature, so yep. I'm gonna do Moon because I love Moon. Oh,
I knew it.
Obviously, I'm doing They Live, and I've already explained why, because it's all so tied in. But legitimately, I've never watched them together, but I bet it just works fucking great because they have similar tones and such like ridiculous shit, like a 200-minute fight in an alley, like just and a black guy. So I mean, they have a lot in common, and and resist.
Not any black guy. Keith. Okay.
Yeah.
Keith.
Right.
Keith David.
Keith motherfucking David.
Okay.
Not to
always does his black job.
Not to be confused with David fucking Mother Keith. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. I love Keith David. He's the best. I wish he was in everything. He's so great. All right, Don, what are 75 recommendations that you have? Because I know you always love to bring the recommendations.
You know what?
I'm so excited somebody else did it.
I hate you both. The thing I got Don't Look Up, Poltergeist, It Follows, House, One BR, One Bedroom, Hereditary, Where Evil Lurks, Society, The Blob, Return of the Living Dead, Star Trek First Contact, The Matrix, Slither, Dead Silence, Extinction, and last but not least, Jojo Rabbit.
Ooh.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Jojo Rabbit. Interesting. You had to get Hitler in there somehow, I guess. So,
well,
if we're going down the racism,
it's Godwin's law. You got to bring Hitler up at some point.
We're going down the racism rabbit hole. You got to talk about Hitler eventually, right? So, well, hey, before we wrap this up,
sure.
I want to thank you for having me on your podcast so many times. Mo, I want to thank you for the vision of knowing how great I am as a guest and how I really bring, the A game every time that I come. But on a more serious note, you two have been really great to me over the years. And I would never have known Don if I hadn't, met James all those years ago at that convention. And we would have never had an hour-long conversation about Spice World. And like a life where I didn't have an hour-long conversation about Spice World with Don seems just a little bit lesser to me, and
See,
so
it made your life so much more.
It enriched my life. It really did. I got to talk about a movie. Like, if you would have told me, because like I wrote a review for Spice World back in the day, and I'm like, oh, this is cute. It kind of reminded me of like Hard Day's Night, for the Beatles, right? It's not very serious, it understands what it is. It understood the assignment, that's what everybody likes to say these days, and so like, it's not going to change your life, but like, if you were a Spice Girls fan, it's going to be great. And like, even somebody like me, who I'm just like, the Spice Girls were fine, but like, I'm not just like, I wasn't sitting there like singing Wannabe or anything, like any of these things. So it was literally a movie that was assigned to me, as a film critic all those years ago. Nobody else wanted to go see Spice World. They're like, oh my God, Spice World is going to be fucking terrible. I just remember like the conversations that we were having, like, why are they making a Spice Girls movie? This is fucking stupid, And then like, nobody would fucking believe me when I was like, you know what? It's actually not bad. It's kind of cute, and it like totally plays to the audience that it's, and they're just like, you are insane. Like, what is your problem? Like, this is such a flash in the pan, those sorts of things. And I'm just like, okay, that's fine. Like that's like, I was always a horror fan, but I became more of a horror fan through becoming a film critic because nobody wanted to go see the horror movies. And so I always got assigned to the horror movies. And man, like, to me, that was where all of the fun action was, like, don't send me to the boring romantic comedy or the drama where somebody dies. I've seen a drama where somebody dies 1,000 times. Show me a horror movie where a plate glass window gets dropped on a kid. That's what I want.
That does sound like you.
Yes, exactly. So thank you guys for having me on so many times. I really appreciate it. I think that we've had fun over the years, and this is certainly not an excuse not to come on my podcast, at some point, in the future or something, when you get bored of, not podcasting, and you can have like that 5 minutes of like, oh, this is what a podcast is like. I hate this. So,
as long as I don't have to do any of the loading or editing or
Yep, exactly.
So where can people find your stuff? Where can they listen to your podcast and stuff?
Yeah, so
I don't know what else. Things.
Right.
Are you collaborating on a screenplay with anybody?
I am collaborating on a screenplay with somebody right now.
Me too. That's weird.
That is weird. I wonder if maybe we should talk about that in Kentucky. I don't know. I mean,
that was weeks ago.
That was weeks ago. Oh, I can't believe we talked about that in Kentucky weeks ago. So,
look, guys, Kentucky is code word. Okay, it's not referring to any conventions. It's code word.
I'm literally referring to Kentucky. I can't believe that there was like, if you would have told me years ago that like you're gonna want to go to Kentucky at some point, I'm like, come on, man, I've been to Kentucky. There's nothing there that is interesting, and yet here I am going to Kentucky. Here I am having gone to Kentucky 3 weeks ago. And
it was a blast,
and it was so much fun
we had.
Oh my God! Scott Bradley's eyes when we gave him his gift. Woo!
Yeah, I was going to say the thing at Scott Bradley's birthday party. Those were the days.
But no, you can't. My podcast is BF Movies. So we're on all of the various different podcast things, and you can't. Nah, don't follow me on any of the socials. That's fine. Like, if you know me, that's fine. Come and find me. But, you know, who gives a shit? Like, I'm not that active on any social medias, so I'm not that interesting.
You have no disagreements from us, apparently. Good job.
Exactly. What am I going to say? Follow me on Twitter? Fuck Twitter.
Right?
Yeah.
Follow me into a bar that serves good wings and pick up the tab. Thanks.
I think I've done that before.
All right. I suppose we'll wrap this up then. So thank you once again for doing this 7 fucking times. And yeah, man, it's been a blast.
So how does this work? Do we like hold the podcast down and then like somebody like puts a gun to the back of its head, or
we'll find out.
It's gonna look at the flowers. It's gonna look
find
at the
out
flowers.
I'm sorry. I'm spoilers. I'm sorry. I'm doing spoilers right now. Sorry.
We'll find out on August 5th when Thomas Sexbot Brungart joins us for Silence of the Lambs. Good times.
All right. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Indeed. All right. I guess that wraps it up for another week. As always, I'm James Sabata.
And I am permitted as the colored man to speak.
Oh my.
Jesus Christ. And we'll see you at least one more time next week at thenecronomicon.com.